And this is the mayor, so
Rachel Keesling.
and today is just talking about what she does and some background and what she wants to see from the youth of Punta Gorda. So you've been part of the city council for a while. You spent some time as vice mayor before moving up to mayor. What brought you here? What the change? Stuff like that.
So basically the mayor position is the chairman of the board. So the city's basically set up like a business would be with a CEO and a board of directors. So the city council is the board of directors and the city manager is the CEO. So the mayor position in Punta Gorda, it isn't, you're elected to be a city council member, but the 5 city council members select the mayor. So I've been on the council for 8 years. So when you first come on, obviously somebody else has been nominated and approved as the mayor, but every year that could change. So I was the vice mayor working with the mayor, and then he decided not to run anymore. And so after he was not on the council anymore, I was elected mayor.
You grew up here, which is really cool, and you taught middle and high school in this county as well as Lee. What brought you from teaching to city council?
Well, that's interesting because I had 2 kids. One's in college and one's going to be a senior in high school this year. So I was lucky to be able to stay at home after they were born because teachers don't make a very big salary, as you know.
Yeah, my mom's a teacher.
Right, so you know to pay for daycare is expensive, and so I was lucky enough to be able to stay at home with them, and I was volunteering in the schools very heavily. My mom was a teacher at Sally Jones for 29 years, so I was basically there all the time when my kids were in school there, and my mom was working there, so she's retired now, but the former mayor, Harvey Goldberg, he approached me about running for city council, which is now 8 years ago. Because one of the councilmen from my district, he was running for county commission, and you can't hold 2 offices. So you can't run for re-election for city council and run for county commissioner at the same time. So I made an agreement with him. We had an agreement that I would do the qualification during the week, and at the end of the week, nobody else qualified. So I was elected unopposed the first time.
Wow. When you were a teenager, was your dream job to be the mayor? Was it something different?
I never thought I would be in politics ever. I mean, I was in student government in high school. I was the secretary of the senior class, which apparently that leads you into being the leader of reunions for the rest of your life, which I did not know at the time. So that was kind of interesting. And I did enjoy student government in high school, but that's really as far as it went. When I was in college, I was in a sorority, and they always wanted me to elevate into the upper positions, but I was the sergeant at arms, which I really did like that position because it was kind of low-key, but I was still in a leadership position. And then when I was volunteering heavily at Sally Jones Elementary, the PTO, they always would ask me if I wanted to be the president, but I never really wanted that either. I was the volunteer coordinator. So what I did in that role is really get the people to come help with all of the events, and that's really what I enjoyed. So I really never thought I would be in politics, but I've really enjoyed the community involvement, and the city getting to know the city staff and the organization as a whole has been really awesome.
As mayor, what do you believe you've contributed or helped change while being in office?
So many things. You know, I've been on council. We've had the economic downturn. We've had a couple of hurricanes. I came on after Hurricane Charlie, so that was a big rebuilding process for the city. Irma was pretty devastating as far as our seawalls go in PGI, a little bit in Burnt Store Isles, but trying to solve the problems. I mean, new problems like with the storms. You know, that was a 100-year event that happened with Irma when the seawalls went down. So really trying to solve the problems that come up is challenging, but it's exciting as well.
What is something you're working on changing?
Working on changing right now is the perception of Punta Gorda as a retirement community.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have a lot of retirees here, and we love our retirees here, but it's also a family place too. We don't have to be one or the other, we can be both. I mean, we have a lot of long-term, long-time, old-time, they call themselves the old-timers. I didn't make that name up, but they call themselves the old-timers, and some of them have been here for generations. And so I just think we need to balance that out, that yes, we can be an awesome place where you can come and retire and, live on a canal and have the boat of your dreams and do all that stuff, but it's also a great place to raise a family. It's a very safe city and county for the most part, and so and not as crowded as Lee and Sarasota County. So we have a lot of things to offer, but really changing that perception that it is a retiree, centric, which it is, but there's people that live here year round, like our police officers and our teachers and our doctors and our lawyers, and everybody that's in a service profession here is a year-round resident. So that balance between seasonal and full-time residents, I think, is a challenge, but we try to work on it as best we can.
And what do you do as mayor on a daily basis? Like, what is it?
Okay, so like every day is different, which is another fun thing about the job. Like one day could be really hard and terrible and some bad issue comes up and you have to deal with it, but then the next day you're at Do the Right Thing, giving keys to the city to kids that, have done amazing things and return property or help somebody in need. So every day is a little bit different. This morning we had a special city council meeting that was called, and we were working on a master plan process, which is going to go on into 2019. It's going to be a very thorough, extensive analysis of everything to do with the city, the planning, the zoning, the land development regulations, the economics of what businesses should come here. So that's going to be ongoing, like I said. So today we just started planning for that. So it's July, but we're talking about January 2019 and beyond. So on a daily basis, it just really varies.
It sounds like a cool life. What's a common misconception about being mayor?
The common misconception here in Punta Gorda is that I'm the elected mayor, because I'm not. Like, City of Fort Myers has an elected mayor. City of Cape Coral has an elected mayor. Here it is an appointed mayor position. The mayor of Punta Gorda doesn't have any more power than the other 4 council members. So it's basically, like I said, the chairman of the board type of thing. I run the meetings. And what's interesting about that is when I'm running the meetings, I can't make any motions. And I can't second any motions. So I have to rely on the other council members to make the motions. I vote, but I don't make the motions. So I run the meetings, and basically I'm the ceremonial figurehead. Mm-hmm. Yesterday we were at the History Park doing a dedication of the Tribute Cottage, which mostly all the council members attend those kind of events, but normally they would ask the mayor to say a few words. So it's a ceremonial mayor position. I run the meetings, but I have no more power than the other 4 council members. So that's a misconception in our area, that most people think it's like Fort Myers or Cape Coral, where it's a separate election, and it's not.
What would you say is the most rewarding part of your job?
The most rewarding part is getting to know your community, like on a deeper level. Like you can meet people, you can meet a new friend today, this afternoon, but that's a superficial relationship. But you have to meet them several times to really get to know them better. And that's what I really like, is that I've been able to get to know so many people. I kind of have a deeper understanding of what's going on. And it's kind of funny, because now I go into situations and I just assume everybody knows everybody else, and then I realize, oh, that person doesn't know that person. And so, making sure I do introductions properly, because not everybody knows everybody else. But having grown up here in Charlotte County, having raised my kids here in Punta Gorda, through those experiences in the school system and all of that, I've met a lot of people. And so being in the city, you kind of delve into those deeper relationships. Like I said, when problems come up, you help people solve their problems, and that's pretty rewarding.
What's the most frustrating part of your job?
The most frustrating part is when you kind of hit a dead end. You always want to try to offer solutions for problems. For example, I'll give you an example. We have a situation where the seawall went down in Punta Gorda Isles, and the city and the city staff and the contractor that fixed the seawall went out of their way to help the people that were in the villas that were affected. And now they're coming back to us and kind of like nitpicking every little thing after we've done. I mean, they basically dealt with every staff member, and now they're calling me to try to get these other little tiny things, the city to do more than what they've already done, mm-hmm. which we wouldn't do for everyone. Yeah. So sometimes you get frustrated by that. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, I kind of feel like in this situation we've hit kind of a wall, and there's really nothing more the city can do. It's basically on them now to get the rest of their property mm-hmm. Back in order.
What's something available in Punta Gorda that most people don't know about? Resources, programs, stuff like that?
Things that, well, one thing that I'll tell you that, we have this service called Design Studio. So any potential business owner, homeowner, even if you're not buying the building, but say you want to open whatever. Let's take a marijuana dispensary. So say you wanted to open a marijuana dispensary, you could actually come in and talk to our staff, and they would tell you where you could do it, how you could do it, and all of that before you've gone into any of the investment of starting the business. Or say you wanted to get a food truck and you wanted to go around town selling food out of your cool food truck. Again, they would sit down with you ahead of your situation and let you know what can and cannot be done in the rules. So that's called the Design Studio. It's very popular, and they do it even people that have issues, like say your fence blew down in the hurricane and you want to build this really cool, nice, newer, different fence than what you had before. They'll even sit down with residents and talk to them about things like that before they spend the money or happen to hire a contractor that doesn't really know what they're doing. We try to be proactive so we can get rid of those problems before they happen. So that's called Design Studio, and I think it's a pretty cool service that we have. It's pretty laid back, and our urban design department, they handle it. And like I said, they're really good at coming up with solutions. They don't just say, no, you can't do that. They try to come up and say, well, if you could do this and you could do that, then maybe we could work around, or maybe we need to change something here. Because if it comes back to an ordinance and say the ordinance is too restrictive and they think so and the person thinks so, then they can always bring that to the city council and we can consider whether we want to relax it or not. And, sometimes that happens. I'll give you another example. When my husband and I built our house 10 years ago, so I wasn't on city council at the time, but I did know Harvey Goldberg, who was the mayor. And we actually put down artificial turf in our yard, which is okay, but the ordinance said that the 6 feet abutting the seawall had to be sod, S-O-D, nothing else. So when we went to go get our CO, they were like, we really love your artificial turf, but it's not allowed. So then we went through the process of getting the code changed so that artificial turf is allowed in backyards and PGI. So that's just one example of how you can get things changed.
I like that. So for more of like the city questions, what do you think is the crown jewel of Punta Gorda?
I think our parks, we have awesome parks. People take ownership of our parks, which is pretty interesting, They're public. We try to keep them as public as possible. We don't charge for parking. It's not like other places where you go, like I know Lashley and Ponce, they both have places where you can put your boats in the water. We don't charge for any parking there. The park system, I think, is the crown jewel between Lashley, the linear parks. I don't know if you walked any of the linear parks on the harbor walks. Gilchrist and Ponce, and we have a plan, hopefully in the next year, to revamp Ponce de Leon Park as well. So the parks are really the crown jewel of Punta Gorda, and it makes the waterfront areas accessible to the public.
What would you like to see from the next generation of Punta Gorda council members?
Oh, I would love to see more younger people get involved, because it does seem like what we were talking about before, it tends to go to the retiree instead of the people that are working age. And I think that we could do a better job of including more working age people, even though it is hard because they are working and have kids in school and they have all those responsibilities. So we really need to do a better job of trying to include more of those people. One of my ideas was having some evening workshops, which we're going to try to do, because right now all of our meetings are at 9 a.m. in the morning. So people that work, oh yeah, if you're the boss, you could leave and go to the council meeting, but if you're working for somebody or you're a teacher, you can't just get a shift off to come to a meeting. So more inclusion of all the age groups. I would hope that we could get that moving with the next generation.
What is something you wish the youth of Punta Gorda were involved in, or more involved in?
I would say the government. It would be great if they could be more involved in the government. But opportunities like this come around, and the Parkland kids were just here, so March for Our Lives, they were here and they called us, and I participated in a roundtable discussion and a town hall discussion that they had. So that was really exciting. And they basically put the whole thing on themselves. So we're always open to ideas like that. So I wish that the local kids could get more involved in government, but I have a daughter who's going to be a senior in high school, and I know how busy she is. She's been gone for like the last 2 weeks with different leadership camp and cheerleading camp. So I know how busy the kids are, but it would be awesome to have them more engaged.
Seeing as this is a platform to contact the youth of Charlotte County, is there anything you'd like to add?
Just stay involved. I think those Parkland kids were really inspiring, and they had Charlotte County kids in their group as well. And I think they're starting a chapter, or maybe they already have a chapter here for March for Our Lives. And really what they're trying to do is inspire kids to register to vote. And not only that, but as soon as you turn 18, vote. Actually go and vote. And what I was telling them, and it's important for kids to know, like this November, this general election, the ballot is going to be really, really long because we have all those referendums and amendments on there from the Constitution Revision Commission. So the ballot's going to be really, really long, but you can do mail-in or you can do early voting. And what I like about the mail-in is that you can get the ballot sent to your house and you can read over it as many times as you want. A lot of these amendments that are going to be on there are really confusing, even for somebody like me who's in government, because they're mixing a whole bunch of issues into one long, amendment. And by the time you get done reading it, what did the top part say? It doesn't connect. And so I would encourage the kids to read over a sample ballot, get a mail-in ballot, or go to early voting. Don't wait till the last day of November 6th to show up at the polls, because you could find yourself in a long line, and that would not be good.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.